All right, we're going live. Looks like we're officially live right now. We're going to talk about some free agency. We're going to talk about some of the news that happened today. We're going to let the chat fill up, and then we're going to get into it. But another day of a lot of news. Excited to talk about it. I'm not going to be on as long tonight. I want to at least get some sleep tonight. But I'm here to talk some fantasy football, some dynasty, some news. And I'm going to make the streams more of a thing. I'm not going to say it's going to be every night. I'm going to say it's going to be a lot of nights, though. And as we get into the season, there's going to be more and more. Maybe one day we'll get the morning streams. Maybe. But we know we like to chug along here. But looking at the news here, we got a lot going on. We got one person in the stream so far. Let's go ahead and rock and roll it. Let's look at what we're seeing here. So like yesterday, we're going to go down Adam Schefter's timeline here and go by the news and just talk some ball, talk some shop. First things first, Aaron Rodgers is on Robert F. Kennedy's short list to be on his running mate ticket. I do not know anything about that kind of stuff. I just think it's incredibly funny, and we'll leave it at that. If that happened, I'd be interesting. I don't have any thoughts. I don't know much about that kind of stuff. I shoot like 5 to 10 YouTube videos a day, so I do not have enough time to learn about anything like that. So we're going to keep that one moving. Kind of funny, though. Hilarious, one way or another. Next thing we're looking at here, Eagles offseason additions so far. Saquon, Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Devontae Parker. We talked about Devontae Parker yesterday, and we talked about him as if he was dust, pretty much dust. He can get downfield a little bit. He's going to be an ancillary wide receiver here. Not going to be fantasy relevant. Don't even have a look on him. Don't even put him on ADP. Don't do that. But also take note, he can get some deep balls. That could potentially happen. But we shall see. It's the A.J. Brown show. It's the Devonta Smith show. Something happens to Devonta Smith, maybe, if he gets hurt. But still, we ain't talking about Devontae Parker. I don't think anybody is. Moving on down. Patrick Mahomes restructuring. It's kind of a big deal because a lot of people are speculating. Is that going to bring in a big name? The big name that we're thinking about here, is it T. Higgins? Are they going to be trading for T. Higgins? Is that going to be a possibility? Do you think that could happen? I don't know if that can happen, but I'm excited. My ears are perked up. We're moving some money around to make something happen here. They're bringing in a guy. They're bringing in a body. T. Higgins going to the Chiefs on top of possibly drafting some wide receivers. I heard people mention offensive line. And think about this, wide receiver and offensive line, they're both stacked and they're both deep in the draft this year, which is very exciting. But how fun would it be if the Chiefs landed T. Higgins? The devil's advocate to that, because you always got to play that. Why would the Bengals do that deal? Why would they do that? Because they got to compete against it. It's got to be a good offer. It's got to be a damn good offer. They got to feel like they can replenish with what's coming back at them. They definitely got to do that. But if that happens, Twitter's going to melt. This channel's going to melt. And I'm all for craziness. Diontae Johnson in a 7th. For Dante Jackson in a 6th. And he's going to the Panthers. Very interesting deal here. From a fantasy football perspective, looking at Diontae Johnson here. Great ad for the Panthers. They needed a wide receiver that creates separation. They needed that in the worst way. Bryce Young needed that in the worst way. He needed a dependable option at wide receiver to sling the rock to. He just needed that. We got that right now. It's happening. So I look for him to be a good help for the team. Fantasy asset-wise, you got to see if he can soak up the targets. When I think of Pittsburgh, they're in a good spot here to just go ham with the wide receivers in the draft. You got George Pickens. Why not just build around that? You're going to get something good in return in the draft. You're going to be able to backfill pretty good. It ain't going to be too bad. There's a lot of good wide receivers in the draft. You could fade it for a round or so and still catch good wide receivers. And that's something you can be interested in. Moving on down here. Let's see what else he's got. Bryce Young's what? Okay, we're moving back. Moving back. I was in the comments. There we go. So moving down. Looking. Danielle Hunter going to the Texans. That's another interesting one, even though that's not a fancy get. One thing you got to think about the Texans here is they're loading up. The Texans are loading up. C.J. Stroud's going to be good for a long time. C.J. Stroud's here to stay. I don't think anyone's like arguing against that or really talking about that, but they are talking about, the world is, that the Texans are loading up. And I expect them to be talked about a lot this offseason and to be ranked as favorites and to look good. Moving on down, free agent Brandon Powell is returning to the Vikings. That's okay. Not relevant really for fantasy. Take a lot of injuries and some luck on top of that. Devontae Parker going to the Eagles. We touched based on that. Good depth for the team. A good role player for the team. There's too many balls. Not enough balls to go around. Fantasy-wise, not really. No. The Colts have re-signed 5 of their own players. Michael Pittman. I love that they're re-signing their guys. It's just letting the younger guys know if they work hard, they produce, they're going to get re-signed. I like that Michael Pittman's staying with the Colts. I feel like he's like the perfect fit there. I think this is good for Richardson. This is good for continuity with the team. I think Michael Pittman's good there, and I think that's a good spot. Moving down here, we're going pretty quick. Free agents who are signing with divisional rivals and now facing their former teams. Saquon Barkley, Giants to Eagles. I've seen some people get really pissed, Giants fans on TikTok and stuff, just crying over that. I think it's hilarious. Patrick Queen from Ravens to Steelers. Aaron Jones. We'll talk about that more here in a few minutes. Aaron Jones from Packers to Vikings. Geno Stone, Ravens to Bengals. Interesting to say the least. Drew Lock going to the Giants. He's going to compete there for a job unless they draft a quarterback, but they're getting prepared. They're getting prepared for the quarterback position. One way or another, they're going to try and see what they can do to flip that around. More on Patrick Queen. They're talking that up. Running backs. Derrick Henry is going to the Ravens, which is good to see. Seeing him go to the Ravens, we had him pretty much pegged there the whole time. Everyone had him pegged there. There was a lot of rumors. It just came to fruition, which usually this stuff doesn't come to fruition, which is very interesting. Aaron Jones to the Vikings. Let's just talk about that now. We're going to talk about it again because we're going to scroll to it. But him going to the Vikings, a good buffer for whatever quarterback they bring in. Looks like J.J. McCarthy might be the guy. J.J. McCarthy might be getting drafted by the Vikings. That might be a thing. That might be happening. The odds are saying so. They may have to make a move for that, but it looks like they're going to be doing that. It looks like it's highly likely, and I think it's going to happen. That being said, I'm going to move my microphone a little quick closer. I try to keep my microphone out of the shots so I don't look like those other podcasters that's just right up in it. It looks kind of weird. Joe Mixon to the Texans. That came out today. Joe Mixon going to the Texans. That is just huge. See this Smitty guy right here? That guy's trying to be all over the place. But moving on down. Where are we going? I want to talk. Is it here? No, Irv Smith. Irv Smith going to Kansas City. Irv Smith. Man, there was a lot of hype on him back in the day with Cincy this year, and you did not hear about him hardly ever. Now we're going to Kansas City. Will he get his opportunity there? Probably not. But if something happens to Kelsey, we got an athletic tight end that might be able to do something. You're not really looking at it for fantasy, but maybe just keep an eye on it throughout the season. More on Derrick Henry going to the Ravens. I think it's wheels up for him. I got to adjust my rankings on him. I might have to bump him up a spot or two. Or I probably got him same spot. Somewhere similar. I got to look at that. But I look at running back, 1 to 2 year window, right? We're in a great situation. Edwards gone. Dobbins gone. They needed a running back in the worst way. They went out and got their running back. They paid Henry. He's going to be getting opportunities. He's older. But again, dynasty-wise, we're looking at 1 to 2 year window. So really depends on how much you can fetch him for. Pretty much a hold in most leagues. He's not very liquid unless someone's trying to sell out right now due to the liquidity of the signing and someone's trying to get in. Shaq Barrett has agreed with the Dolphins. Nyheim Hines is signing a 1-year deal with the Browns. That went under the radar, right? So they're getting a pass catching a running back there. That's something interesting to look at. Nyheim Hines going to the Browns. Is this an indication to what we're thinking about Nick Chubb and the knee? Is that another insurance policy to add to the depth of the backfield? Kareem Hunt's definitely not coming back. He's definitely not coming back. That being said, Nyheim Hines, you're not picking him up. You might be if your league's deep enough. You're not, but you're looking at that. That's a quiet one. Mike Gesicki to the Bengals. That one might deserve some speculation when you think about it, Mike Gesicki to the Bengals, because Mike Gesicki, he's one of those tight ends that it's kind of like an overpromise, underdeliver type of deal with his career. Highly athletic prospect, but never hit. Looked good coming out of college, coming out of Penn State, and just never hit. He's been in these situations where he's getting opportunities. Cincinnati, though, this also gives them more fluidity in the drafts where they're not pegged to go tight end. I don't think Brock Bowers falls to them in the draft. I do not see Brock Bowers going to them in the draft, and this is also another indication that they're not going to trade up to get Brock Bowers unless he falls far enough to where they're in striking distance. And you can roll 2 tight ends. I mean, we've seen teams do that before. But Brock Bowers is not falling to the Bengals. That's just not happening. Moving down here, Marcus Mariota and Sam Howell on its roster with another quarterback potentially joining. Mariota going to Washington. Interesting landing spot there. Just a buffer for the rookie. Another buffer. Maybe they bring him up. Maybe they start him off slow, which they probably will. And they're going to have Howe and Mariota fight it off to start the season. Kind of ugly in Washington. They're going to get another early pick next year. Let's see. Commanders, agents on day 1 of free agency, who they picked up. And they got Austin Eckler. That's the big signing for fantasy football. Again, I'm not really loving the landing spot. You're sharing the backfield there with Brian Robinson. Might get some workload in the passing game, but it ain't going to be anything like you saw in LA. And then Aaron Jones going to the Vikings, going to Minnesota. That's something you probably didn't really think of. But mixing in with his offense, they're bringing in another quarterback. They're bringing in a rookie. I have a good feeling they're going to draft one of those rookie quarterbacks. The 4th guy off the board is going to Minnesota. I think draft night's going to be pretty fun when it comes to quarterback position. Back to Joe Mixon. And they've released him. He's at the Texans. Amazing landing spot when you think about that. Joe Mixon to the Texans. That's wheels up. That's a grand situation. CJ Stroud's going to be good for a long while. CJ Stroud with the upside, slinging it downfield. CJ Stroud's got some pieces there. I would not be surprised if the Texans get more pieces in the draft. Maybe even another running back. Maybe some wide receivers. I don't think they're done getting sexy weapons here. And they got to build at other spots. I know that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've had some injuries on the offensive line last year. has slowed things down for like 2 games. But still, you get that first-round quarterback, that top-tier pick you spend, you're going to get pieces around them. Even though you already got pieces, you're going to get more. And it may not be premium capital, but it doesn't take premium capital from this year's draft to get excited or intrigued. That's it on his timeline. That is it. Let's move it on up here. Let's see here. Derrick Henry going to the Ravens. That is the fun one right there from the day. So I want to go back to here. Let's go back to tools here. We're back to RotoViz. Well, that didn't show, did it? Hold up. Let's see here. Share screen. There we go. There we go. Back to RotoViz. And I want to go to rushing. And if you want to see any stats here, let me know. I'll pull them up for you. I'll pull up any stats you want that I got. My house is your house, guys. So if there's a stat you want me to pull up and I think I got it, I will show it to you. But I really want to look at these running back touches. Just off the rip. Like, I look at these a lot because we were looking at Keaton Mitchell every day this offseason on the channel. We were. This was the Keaton Mitchell show here. Gus Edwards gone. Jacob Dobbins gone, which doesn't matter in touches, but the upside. Melvin Gordon ain't coming back. He's going to eat Justice Hill's touches for sure. Keaton Mitchell, R.I.P. Poor little muscle milk out. He's going to get all those touches. They're going to, like, split up the load a little bit behind him, obviously. But they're going to run him into the ground. They're going to run Derrick Henry into the ground. That's one thing to think about there. If you're really looking at running backs 1 to 2 year windows and you're really about that life, outside of injury, we know Derrick Henry's getting ran into the ground. They know they got so much time left to Derrick Henry. They know this going in. They know they don't have 5 years or so. I know the contract says this, but I know they got to get it in with him soon. They're going to pound the shit out of Derrick Henry. He's going to be getting a lot of touches until he breaks. He might break a couple weeks into the season, but you can't forecast that. That's something to look at. They're going to be using him hard. Let's go back to the Texans here because they picked up Joe Mixon. Let's see. That's Houston, right? I want to look at Texas. Singletary gone. 192 attempts. Dameon Pierce is going to lose a lot of that as well. Rushing percentage, 47% is gone. Singletary to the Giants. 47% of that. I can definitely see Joe Mixon taking that. I can definitely see Joe Mixon taking that lunch. I can definitely see Dameon Pierce losing some still. Dameon Pierce, 2.9 yards per carry. 2.9. Sloth back. Slow. It wasn't the same as his rookie season. He has good vision. He's assertive and all that. It's all good stuff in real life. But still, let's go. Let's look at the passing. Let's look at the receiving here. I want to look at Carolina. I know things are different with different coaches and stuff. But, again, you want to identify trends, who's coming, who's going. Adam Thielen last year had a 26% target share. And Diontae Johnson stepping in here. We got 17, 14. 134 targets went to Adam Thielen. So now we're going to project out targets. I think Diontae Johnson can easily get more than 100 targets, 120, somewhere around there. And then Jonathan Mingo. You look at him right here, right? Everyone's like, bust. You got to think, too. Raw, second-round pick. We got a 17% target share, second most on the team, 921 air yards, 22% share of the air yards. And we were looking at him in season a lot. He had some moments. So we're going to his graph. Wow, this is loading so slow. PPR wasn't getting it done in fantasy, but we did have some double-digit performances. 10.2 in week 8, 10 in week 12, 12 in week 13. Then we go, what you want to look at is the workload, not the production, really. Targets, 10, 9, 7, 6, 6, 7, 8. So we were getting volume. That's okay. And then target share. 38, 24, 23, 17, 28, 22. 17% on the season because he had some low games of like 3, 8%, 10%. But weeks 10 through 15, we were rolling in target share. We also had some injuries in the season as well, some setbacks. Something to note, you look at the 17% target share on the season, but look at the upside here. You also got Diontae Johnson there creating separation underneath. You got him rolling up top. You got Bryce Young going into year 2. Something you do not feel good buying into. But you look at his ADP. You look at his value. I mean, what's he going to cost? Yeah, keep trade cut. I do not go there too often. I can get there pretty quick, though. Oh, yeah. Let's keep Cam Akers. Trade cut. I don't know. I play around with that. I mess up their data. That's how I roll. That's how I roll with that site. But we're going with Mingo here. Jonathan Mingo. Let's look at his profile here. Positional rank wide receiver 71. Are you buying? Mingo or Bateman? Who would you rather have? Mingo or Roman Wilson? I think I'd rather have Roman Wilson. Trey Palmer or Mingo? Trey Palmer has Evans back. Hyatt, Lockett. Hyatt maybe, depending on what quarterback you get. Leggette's very interesting. Very similar profile, but yet different players. Adjacent players overall. 2024 early 3rd. So if I can get him for less than that, I'm happy. But I don't care either. I'm not really looking at him as a buy. It kind of crossed my mind as I was looking through the numbers. That's how this works here. We go on tangents. Man, Laviska Shenault, what could have been, right? What could have been? Adam Thielen, how's he doing these days? Who else we looking at? So going back here, we're looking at receiving. Let's look at Pittsburgh again because targets are leaving there and try to project out what they could be going after. When you think about these wide receivers in this class, who sounds like, what's up, you dog? What's up? I got you laughing. When you think about the wide receivers in this class, who seems like a Pittsburgh guy? That's what I'm looking at. Who seems like a Pittsburgh guy? Because Diontae Johnson's leaving. That's 82 targets in 12 games. Well over 100 if you prorate that out. I'm not doing the math. 23% target share. Who seems like a Pittsburgh guy that has a different game than George Pickens? Would that be like a Roman Wilson? Does Roman Wilson seem like a Pittsburgh type of dude? Like, I'm just trying to feel that out. Just trying to feel that out. Or are they going to go like an 80 Mitchell in the first round? Are they going to do something like that? Are they going to go with one of those first-round wide receivers? That's the thing with that. When I think about that, prospecting, I think they're going to go 2 or 3 receivers. We've seen teams do this. Early guy, mid guy, late guy, 2 mid guys and a late guy is a deep class. They don't have to go wide receiver in the first round. They don't have to do that. One of those separators, though, a McConkey, a Roman Wilson, one of those guys taking Diontae Johnson's spot, and then one of the deep ball guys with it. And then you're set. You're set. You got upside. You can develop. That's very interesting to see, I think. That's very interesting to look at. Let's see here. Going back here. Going back to Adam Schefter. I want to see if there's any news that I'm missing or anything I want to have a tangent on. But looking at this, Devontae Parker, I think it's a wrap. I think it's a wrap. Unless something weird happens, that's a wrap. More on Diontae Johnson. We're scrolling back up. This is huge. What do you think's going on with this? What do you think's going on with the Chiefs? What's their move here? Looking down here. Let's see what people are saying. Calvin Ridley. I don't know. I can see that being a good fit. I can see that working, though. I can see that being a thing. A lot of people are saying T. Higgins. I was thinking T. Higgins. Justin Jefferson. Really depends on what Minnesota's doing. They're going crazy. Wouldn't that be some NWO shit if they went Justin Jefferson? Wouldn't that be some NWO shit? Please don't let that happen. What else? No, he ain't going to the Chiefs. Jamar Chase ain't going to the Chiefs. That's not logical. Someone wrote washed. You always get weird comments like that. Look at that. Going back, looking at the news. That's it. That's about it. Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles. That's what we can look at. Let's look at the Eagles' backfield from last year. Nah, that's Mingo. I don't want to look at Mingo. There we are. Bam. And we'll go to rushing. Of course, we want to look at the order running backs. I think we looked at this yesterday, but Swift's gone. Look at this. Look at this. Saquon's getting all of that. Saquon's getting all of that for sure. Look at that. 229 rushing attempts to DeAndre Swift. He's getting all that. If you want to look at running backs with opportunities, that's always good to look at. A 28% opportunity share for DeAndre Swift last year. Saquon's pushing 30, 35% for sure. He's going to be top 5 easy, top 3-ish, top 5 easy, healthy. Kenneth Gainwell's nuked even more. He might get a 10%, 8%, but look at that. Targets, 49 targets to DeAndre Swift, 36 to Kenneth Gainwell. Saquon's getting more than that. What's Saquon usually get, though? What does he usually get? So we're looking at him. Saquon, Barkley. Targets a game. 5 to 6 a game. 4.3 a game. So they're going to have to up that, which they should. They should up that workload a little bit. Looking at those numbers last year, and target-wise, opportunity share. Opportunities. So he had one game with 41. That was the game where we thought they were going to kill him. If you remember that week 8 right here, we thought they were going to kill Saquon. We thought that was going to be the end of him. He still was on the field for a good bit. 20, 16, 19, 24, 29, 25, 21.9 opportunities per game. So 21. Do they have it by share? They don't have it by share. So 21 per game there. DeAndre Swift last year. Looking at him. They're going to feature him a little more. So that's what DeAndre Swift was getting. He got a 31 spot against Minnesota. Saquon's going to get more than that. 21 per game versus 17.4. Saquon's probably going to be about the same when everything's said and done when it comes to opportunity share. When you rationally, he might be 20 instead of 21. That might be the case. You might have a 21% opportunity share instead of 21. Something like that. He may not have like a 41 opportunities in a game. He may not have that type of upside, but Swift had 31 in a game. So I think he's going to be all right. I'm not worried about it, and you shouldn't either, really. I think he'll have some upside there. Going over some more news here. Just scrolling. What else? We went over the Texans backfield, the Packers backfield. Let's go over that real quick. Let's touch that. So opportunities. Green Bay. Packers backfield. Let's take a look at that here. A.J. Dillon. Saw most of it because Aaron Jones was hurt a lot of the season. Appeared in 10 games. Both of them are gone. That's, what is that, about 800 touches? Dang, that's a lot of touches between them. A lot of snaps, I mean. Opportunity share, 26% and 23%. That's all going to Jacobs. Almost all of that. Almost all of that. A good bit of that. And they're probably getting another back. .44 and 45% of the rush attempts. 120 to 178. I look for Josh Jacobs to be a bell cow there. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Targets to the backs. He's probably going to get a good bit there as well. Look for that to be pretty easy. Joe Mixon, we covered that. Zach Moss to the Bengals. Let's cover that. At Chicago. Boom. Looking at this real quick. Joe Mixon gone. Zach Moss in. Chase Brown's probably seeing more workload as he should. Definitely going to steal Travion Williams' workload, or should. We'll see. He's promising. Zach Moss is pretty reliable. Does not have the upside as Mixon. 64 targets went to Mixon. Chase Brown had a lot less snaps than Travion Williams. Saw more targets for what it's worth. 13 to 9. Chase Brown seeing more targets. Chase Brown seeing more opportunity. Chase Brown seeing more in the passing game. They're not going to be checking it down a lot to Zach Moss. Zach Moss is going to be doing a lot of the dirty work. Chase Brown's getting some upside. Unless they bring in another back in the draft. I'm getting a little of that bacon color on me. Zach Moss is getting more opportunity. He's getting more chances, goal line, short yardage, the dirty work. You look over here. But Chase Brown, we're going into year 2. We have some continuity in the offense. We covered this the other day. Pulling up his charts. Came on late. That big blow-up game against Indy. And we just chased them for the rest of the year. We're going to chase them this year. I think Zach Moss is the perfect buffer for him. Yeah, Zach Moss is the perfect meat shield for Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown's got some upside. I think he's still going to be relatively cheap. Let's go to keep trade cut here real quick. There he is. He's valued at RB40. We saw a little uptick. We got to keep track of this last month. We're holding flat. The thing about Dynasty ADP on other sites, it only comes out once a month. This comes out daily. But we're looking at Chase Brown here. RB40, that's still relatively cheap. That's still a good price. Comparison, him or Zach Moss in Dynasty. I mean, I'd rather chase the long term. I'd rather chase that mystery box. Him over Chuba. Right now, him over Roshan. Him and versus Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary, if you want to play it safe. Devin Singletary, if you want to see if you can swing on something here for year one. Chase Brown more for that complete upside. Keaton Mitchell, that knee injury, scares the shit out of me. We got Henry there. I think that's going to change. I think Chase Brown's going to jump him. Jerome Ford's an interesting prospect now because we don't know what's going to be up with Chubb this year. Chase with that upside, I think Ford you're holding tight with. You look at adjacent players on the other side, a mid-second or Chase Brown. That's 2026, though. That's projecting out. 2025, 2026, mid-second. I think a lot of people would roll with the 2024 second. I think a lot of people would take that left and right for Brown. And when you think about that mid-second in this year's draft, that's the running back run that's happening. When we look at the mock drafts, we also are seeing some wide receivers fall. But when you think about the picks, that's liquidity too. You can funnel that back a lot easier into the next year. You can funnel that pick into a next year's first, into 2 years from now first, or something like that when you're on the clock and someone wants that player. That's happened before with me. I can turn 4s into 3s, 3s into 2s. I've done that many a times. If you never thought of doing that, you should try it. Just switching out your picks and seeing if you can upgrade for the next year. It doesn't always work. Probably works 1 out of 5, 1 out of 8 times or something like that. That gives you more liquidity. That's something to think about. But if I can get a mid-second in this year's class, I'm going to do that. And then I know I can get one of those running backs or fold into next year's draft and potentially land a higher pick and get higher up the board. All right, guys. So my battery's running out. I don't have a charger in this location for my laptop. So I'm going to have to cut this one short. I am going to be doing live streams about every day. Maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. I'm going to try and do it more. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button right now if you're still watching. That way you don't miss any of the live streams. I got more content coming out tomorrow. I think I'm projecting 4 videos tomorrow. I got them prepared, ready to roll. 3 of them high school. On Wednesday, I dropped 3 high school vids. Now I'm dropping 3 high school recruits, 4 high school recruits technically. I'm doing another vid on Jaden Davis, the quarterback on Michigan. The Michigan fans like him a lot, so I'm going to do another one on that. I'm going to drop another Dynasty vid as well. I'm looking to do that. I dropped wide receiver rankings for this year's class today. That's in the archives. You may want to check that out. We're up to 23 wide receivers. Next week, we'll be up to 26. I'm adding 3 wide receivers to the rankings every week. Same with the running backs. I don't know what number we're at. I'm going to have to check, but I'm adding 3 running backs at random to the list every week and just making it bigger. The running back class is small enough to where it's just harder to make it bigger. That's another thing I'm noticing about this class from a macroeconomic standpoint, that this year's rookie class, depth-wise, isn't the greatest. It isn't the greatest because it's hard getting the content for the videos because there's not as much. Compared to last year's class, we were talking about running backs all day long. It was so easy. It was so easy. Not as many running backs to talk about this year. Just not as many. Wide receivers, though, you can talk about them all day. And another thing, too, you can tell when making content how good a draft class is because that position will have a ton of content to talk about if they got a lot of players. If they don't have a lot of players, and it's a weird class. They don't have as much to talk about. So you have to pinpoint the negatives and try to shock people with it. That being said, I'm probably going to roll out, I'm not for sure, something on rookie running backs. Maybe something with dynasty value on the free agency with some of these players. Be on the lookout for that. Definitely got some stuff going on with the high school recruiting. Still going to roll out that because a lot of people like it. So I'm going to still do that. And plus, it's fun. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tap that button so you don't miss out on any more of the live streams. I promise you I'm going to be doing more. This is fun. I'm probably going to be about every day, every other day or something like that. Really getting my feet wet with this. Hit that like button. Let me know you like it, though. So that encourages me to keep doing it. Because if the numbers are like so-so, I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to pivot to something else. If I do a series on this channel, and the numbers aren't looking hot, I scrap it and I move on. So by hitting the like button, that lets me know that, hey, I like this, keep doing this, and I keep doing that. If people don't, or people don't hit subscribe, or it doesn't get the views, I'll rack up a good amount of videos for that series. But if the numbers aren't there, I move on. I scrap it, I go to something else. I've done it a few times. Also, in the future, for live streams, because we're going to run out of news soon. I know this. I know how the off-season runs. We're going to rack up some games on these. We're going to look at this. We're going to do some mock drafts together as well. I'm brainstorming. So what I'll do is get on Sleeper, run up some mock drafts, throw the link up in the chat. We'll draft together. I'm going to play some Madden. You guys hang out with me, answer some questions and all that stuff. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'm out for the night. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next video.